Actually, I need to look this up because we're on episode 7 right now, folks, and I'm pretty sure 777 is the number of Jesus Christ. And today we have none other than Chris C.D. Marns.
How you going?
Oh, not too bad. How are you going?
Oh,
My sexual little dove.
Apart
Do you
from-
want a better intro? Maybe I could introduce you as a dual premiership captain.
No, I wasn't captain, but dual premiership player.
Dual premiership player. Also, I believe an Ibiza. Oh, how the fuck do you say it? Ibiza DJ.
Yeah, possibly.
Yes, and
In a
that's
past
about
life.
it. That's about it. But
and
anyway,
Pam, your best and fairest winner. You know, something that Mead never did. Well, Steve.
son of a great as well, but also so am I. So
The greatest
whatever.
umpire / factory worker / unemployed doll bludger at the moment.
Like father, like son.
Oh, yes.
you neutron cunt.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Let's jump straight into it. I'm going to flip it around. Fuck it. I'm not doing philosophical questions first. We're going to jump straight into your topic, Marns, that you've come up with.
So this one,
the topic
yes.
is
Overrated / or underrated things in society. Reason why was I was listening to the Great Cricketer podcast, and they say that your social capital goes up if you're better at cricket or in football. And if you've been to a football club before, you know that there's some wanker whose social capital is through the roof, despite the fact that he shells enough dingbats to, kill a full-grown monkey. So the reason why I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start off with being good at sports, is overrated, because generally these blokes are dickheads. And I can think of someone, and I think you can think of someone too, Johnson, who went to my high school that would fit in this category.
as a jock footy head wank. Or?
Yes, jock footy head wank. There's probably multiple that have been to my school, or either at East or at Brower, that probably
Marns,
fit this category.
Just a heads up that there was a lot of school footy wanks we live in the country in southwest Victoria.
You
It
live
is
in Warrnambool.
99%.
So basically Warrnambool is the capital of this whole phenomenon, I reckon.
Yes, it's like the basically the Texas of rednecks, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like is still one, and he's a 60-year-old teacher, and like
wow. So basically, it's something that carries through life. These people, they're good at sports. It's kind of like it'd be the same in America, yeah, like quarterback situation, or if you're a star running back or a receiver or something.
And then you go
fucking
coach the high
blazing
school,
through college.
coach the high school football team. Like it's kind of like if you've watched the show All American, how the dad guy, who's the bald black guy, fucking he was a star, bloody played in the NFL, fucking busted his knee, and then all of a sudden he's come back as a coach of a fucking high school team that's like fucking dominating in Beverly
What's
Hills.
the name of the podcast? The cricket podcast.
The Great Cricketer.
Who's the host of that one?
Oh, it's these two bald guys. They have a TV show now
Delicious.
though on Fox because Fox is trying to copy the front bar, so to speak.
Well, of course. Yes.
Of course.
So, overrated in society is what are you throwing out there? Basically, sports stars of the
Stars,
high school
definitely.
of the era. Are we talking like adults as well?
Yeah, probably. Like there's enough wankers out there, and I know a few.
Yeah, but I suppose wankers probably can't really throw that term out there because I'm probably you can't tell. I'm on webcam right now.
Obviously.
I'm jacking it right now.
Yeah, obviously, we all are, but I mean we're in isolation, so what have we got better to do?
What else is there apart from Netflix? And
but I suppose
digit?
at the same time, like with sports stars, especially when you're on their team, you can put up with the wankerism so long as you're winning. But the moment you stop
do you have, all right, there's obviously going to be a difference for this between you and me. You've grown up, you've played in a lot of sporting clubs. Johnson played soccer under 13s for 2 games and then left because he couldn't be bothered doing it anymore. He's also a 1-game indoor cricket superstar.
that you scored
Apart from
negative
that,
45,000 on because Heather's tried to dancing block everything.
correct. So basically, yes, I have very limited sports exposure for someone who actually loves sports. So I'm going to straight up ask you, do you have any stories of anyone who's just an absolute pill or a flop at a sports club? Don't name them, but do you have an example of something that is just pure arrogance?
There's a couple. Like I had a coach who at Womgoom who literally would get along with no one except for a couple of blokes like me and one of the guys that's still at Womgoom, so I won't mention his name. But anyway, we sort of got along with him on the grounds that, well, he's good enough to, smash everyone. And this is a bloke that made 264 in an innings once. And we ended up only making 500 in a 2-day game. So 500 off 70 overs.
He's handy enough player.
Yeah, and he only made 264 and he was out in the 55th over. So handy enough.
Yeah.
And he went up to Bendigo and played like ones up there. But bit of a deal.
So is it kind of does it become a social club then? Like that only a few people are invited? Like you can't sit here on Wednesdays?
There's a few. And Fallis even knows a guy over in Mount Gambier who plays for North Gambier and over there.
Yeah.
And he has this club called the Cocksuckers because they just follow him around and they just sit there and worship him and be casually racist to Aboriginals.
He didn't name
like
it the Cocksuckers, did he?
No, but everyone else around the club calls them the O'Connell Cocksuckers. His last name is O'Connell. Because
holy he's shit, this guy's that arrogant. He's named his own club the Cocksuckers.
He could have.
Is that? Does he have to say no homo? I think that's a gay.
He could have. And that's the thing. He probably wouldn't get a kick in Hampden League, but because he's playing in the Western Border League where there's fucking 6 clubs, he's fucking dominating.
Wait, what's the Western Border League? Is that like Hamilton and
No, Hamilton jumped out of that to the Hampden. Same with Portland.
Yeah.
So it's now just 4 Mount Gambier teams. And
fucking hell! Imagine getting
Casterton and Millicent
on the weekend. Jesus Christ! Now that right there, folks, for anyone in the left city, that is true country footy.
Yeah, that is very country footy.
What else you got for me? Give me another overrated.
An overrated city councils. And this is coming back off the back of the controversy, Johnson, about the mayor of your city council just quietly being caught down near the Whalers, having a couple of ales when we're all supposed to be in lockdown and telling everyone that we should be in lockdown.
Yes, so basically what you're saying is we've got, I do apologise, I don't know the name of the Prime Minister from New Zealand, a lady over there who's just taken, a 30% pay cut, and then we've got some bloody Warrnambool City Council people over here just having pots on a casual Tuesday when we're meant to be in lockdown.
Out the front of Bojangles too, like
but
the main corner of town.
The funny thing about this is like coming back onto Facebook, obviously I'm seeing all this stuff again, and one of my absolute fucking favourite pages on Facebook is The Standard, just because you see cunts raging at each other in
so many beatniks on The Standard page. Just
it's
a haven of middle-aged people with opinions.
It's just middle-aged or boomer fucking Liberal voters that just absolutely rage at young Labor voters, pretty much.
And our friend, the Eduardo Paderado, who would probably be on their Wigan.
That guy with a really good beard?
Yeah. He'd be on their Wigan too.
So why is wait, sorry, you just cut out before. Is it all city councils or Warrnambool City
Yes,
Council?
all city councils, because up here in the city of Casey, where I'm currently living, which is the biggest council in Victoria.
Wait, is Casey the Demons? Is that the footy club?
Yeah, they're down at Casey Field. Yeah, so it's fucking 200,000 people and growing still. So they reckon eventually there'll be 400,000 people in our area.
Do you count as two towards the population because you're a large gentleman?
Possibly. I haven't talked to Bernard Salt about it, but possibly.
Give me a third.
The reason why I don't like the Casey Council is because their former mayor was accepting bribes, full sort of mafia style, out the back of a car sort of thing.
Wait, is this actually serious?
Yeah, he was accepting bribes from developers so then they could push through all their shit.
So are we talking Simon Deering, hot dogs, bribing women to suck him off in a Cairns nightclub kind of bribes here?
Sort of Troppo's hot dog style sort of setup.
And we will get to hot dogs at some stage or another, and we will come back to him.
Surely.
What's your third?
Surely. My third one... Oh, the third one's got to be. It's got to be.
Before you say it, I just want to let you know on your end, you are still coming through like a robot. So right now, we're doing a robotic Marns interview, and that's okay. I like robot Marns.
So, third one has to be What does it have to be? It has to be.
You sound like you're in a cupboard there, Marns. Are you in a Harry Potter style cupboard there?
Yes,
having a bat while you do this.
No, not having a bat because there's not enough room. Literally not enough room.
All right, hit number 3.
Number 3's got to be soap actors, doesn't it? Like,
Wait,
when
say that
they
again?
put Sam Frost, who is the Bachelorette, on Home and Away, what were they honestly expecting?
Correct. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to get stabbed by a Welsh after this, but
All fellas.
I've been told that apparently Home and Away could be shutting down.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and there's only one way out, I think. There's a true...
But what if it's some kind of meta fourth wall thing where, because Home and Away is basically the same fucking 7 storylines run back. So what if it's really just the show's actually getting kidnapped and the show's going to burn down at the diner and then it's some meta fucking fourth wall thing?
No,
where...
the best one was when they burnt down the diner due to the racists. I reckon they should bring that storyline back to...
There has to be some absolute belter classic Home and Away episodes. Like we're talking Donald Fisher era here, obviously.
Yeah, so Alf, when he got electrocuted, that's got to be a banger one.
Yes. Is that the one that Doodleberger made the video of?
Yeah, that one's a classic. The time Alf beat the shit out of someone's child, I'm not sure. There was a few children he beat. Yes. Anything with his shit son Duncan, too, because, like, let's be honest, his shit son Duncan, that guy had a head like a kicked-in biscuit tin.
Oh, fuck, it was a rough-looking head.
It was a very ordinary-looking lid. And this is coming from me.
Didn't he come back? Didn't he come back?
Oh, I think he might have tried to make a comeback, and they're like, nah, fuck this cunt off. Like, he's not going to get any views.
Nah, fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And obviously we've forgotten about the great man, Vincent.
Yes, Vinny. Well, the less said about him, the better, because, like, there's still conjecture about his death scene. Like, apparently he went into prison, into witness security, and then got burnt alive in prison or something.
Wait, is this the storyline?
Yeah, that's the storyline. Oh, because apparently he went in for fraud after something to do with Bonza Burgers or something. Like, it was fraud-based.
So Vinny is the Chris Benoit of Home and Away?
Pretty much.
He's just not talked about.
He's just pretty much the loosest cannon on that show.
Correct. All right, hit me with the 3 underrated things, and then I'll go through my 6.
I reckon, well, paramedics have to be underrated. Criminally underrated.
Of course. I actually have an auntie that is a paramedic, and the stories I've heard.
I was going to say nurses, but my mum's a nurse, and fuck that. And Fellas's mum's a nurse, so fuck that. Like, that's brown-nosing. I don't like that.
Yep, they're cool.
But paramedics, like, fuck me. Like, if you're going to go out there with meth heads, gangs, goodness knows, fucking white supremacists, whatever you could find out
hard
there.
To get on the stretcher. God damn it.
Yeah, like, there's some of them going out to places like Pakenham and bloody the Pines. You wouldn't pay me enough to go out there and try and deal with that shit.
Especially at night time, and if there's only 2 years, fucking hell.
Fuck that. Like, that's dangerous. People who work in shoe shops. Underrated, I reckon, because they always get the right size.
Wow, that's such a random thought, and I fucking love it. But guess what? It's called technology, man. It's called athlete's foot. Go step on the fucking thing.
Athlete's foot, though, I'm a bit sceptical of athlete's foot, because every time I went in there, I'd get a pair of shoes, and then my fucking arches would start burning up. Because they chose shit one.
I'm actually going to agree with you for once. I've had 2 pairs of fucking sneakers from athlete's foot for the 2 times in my life that I've been motivated enough to go running, and they both didn't fit.
Yeah. And the one time we did go to athlete's foot, fellas brought me a pair of shoes, and those are my current runners. And they fit perfectly, and we didn't actually go to athlete's foot, she just bought them online. So just fucking buy them online.
What's the old school name for a shoemaker?
Isn't it a cobbler?
Cobbler.
Yeah. Because they have to... I was noted once by the clock as being a bit of a cobbler when it comes to using a hammer on a fence post because I just kept tapping it. Not bashing it like he does with his fucking 4 fingers.
I thought you meant you're a cobbler as in you just enjoy Cobb's pie or 7.
Or a Cobb loaf or 16.
Yes. Do you have one more underrated thing?
Oh, I'll need to think about it. But I was going to say teachers, but then that's really arrogant, isn't it?
No, you can't do that. That's
gay.
No.
That is really gay.
That's gay.
I think the other one has to be... It has to be Patrick Mead's family, wouldn't it? to have to put up with that level of
absolutely,
abuse
yes.
for so long.
Sorry, I thought you meant their looks,
Well,
like, on the women's side.
That too. I mean,
Apologies.
and the GOAT too. Like, he was a very brooding young lad back when he won the 79 flag with Bamua.
That's correct. All right, you ready to hear 15-year-old Johnson rant?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, overrated. Number one, the most overrated thing in society is boomers. All right?
Oh, no.
Just straight up, all of them except for K-pop. Every single boomer in Australia is overrated. And that's why the coronavirus is going to get them.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
You can't bloody say that in public.
Johnson,
if anyone actually thinks
just...
that I'm serious here, seriously, when am I ever serious? Apart from, half the time, I guess.
You're going to literally burn alive any advertising revenue you could potentially get for this podcast.
Advertising revenue?
Yes.
What, do you mean the 7 people that listen to this podcast?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
What would be the 7 things that bind all people that listen to this podcast?
They're all poor, and I hate all my fans.
Could be Centrelink.
Think of people that are listening to this right now that would consider themselves, fans, I guess, or whatever, that have listened to each episode. That listen to this right now in their car or wherever the fuck they are, right? I want them to know that if I'm the stone cold of this bitch, that if I was in public with them, I would put them through fucking tables. That's how much I love my fans.
Oh, stone cold. Never change.
So number one's boomers, obviously. I think the only good thing about, I was thinking about this the other day, is that possibly the house price market might come crashing
Yeah,
down.
well, our landlord's meant to be selling our house, and the real estate agent rang us up yesterday, and she's like, the arse is literally going to fall out of the market. So if you're thinking about buying, fucking get your money together now.
Yeah. The flip side to it is that fucking half the fucking country's lost their jobs.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly easy to save. Plus, I mean, it's only human when you're fucking bored as shit to go spend money. It's pretty...
Yeah.
It's one of those weird situations. Like, if you're good with money already, you're probably pretty set. If you're bad with money, you're probably going to be even worse.
Yeah. Like, if you're like my dad and just fucking buy random shit like a kayak just because, the money's burning a hole in your pocket, then you're in a little bit of trouble at the moment.
Well, we have a fucking... Look, this podcast today have been about as prepared as a fucking Year 9 English speech that you do 2 minutes before you jump up there. So, but one thing we have written down is relationship dynamics. So to divert it to that, are you good with money, and is Phallus good with money?
Phallus is probably better than me. I just burn holes in my...
That's interesting, because it's generally the other way around that I've found.
Yeah, but in saying that, it's probably hereditary with me, because my dad fucking burns through money like no one's business. He's literally got a kayak that he's never used.
What's the number one thing that you spend money on that you don't... Is it what that you would consider that you could like clean up a bit, like money? Like food or like alcohol
Food.
or... Oh, for
Food,
sure.
games. Like, I probably spend not a great deal, but enough.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I will pretty much, if you've got option A and option B for dinner, and option A is more expensive, I don't even think about it in terms of price wise now. It's just
That's
get
probably
it because it tastes better.
And that's probably Phallus's weakness, I suppose, is food as well, because we'll have stuff in the fridge, but if it's not interesting, you just want to fucking go buy. Especially down here, you just want to go buy.
Mix in fucking social isolation and cunts going fucking nuts. You're going to have people that are already, like I said, already good with saving money are going to get better at it.
Yeah.
It's probably the hardest time to actually learn to get good with saving money. I would say, I've been hearing a lot of things, especially on fucking Rogan, how he's talking about...
You're mentioning him again, Johnson.
Yes, elk meat DMT. Yeah. Basically that, this is a time now for people to really knuckle down and exercise and shit. And like, no shit, there's been no day that, and I'm not working a whole lot at the moment, and there's not been one day that I've actually been like, I want to go outside for a fucking jog. Like, no.
We've been on like a couple of walks, but fuck that. By the time Phallus...
But I've already explained the difference between weightlifting and cardio Weightlifting's easy. Cardio's difficult. That's
cardio. You
like,
have to actually put yourself out there.
well, yeah, I'm not saying it's easy to be fucking Ronnie Coleman. You know, I would know, being a winner of 5 times Warrnambool's biggest biceps.
Lightweight,
However,
baby!
What did you say?
Lightweight, baby! Another bit of peanut!
Yes, that's the one. He's the black Steve Johnson, basically.
Bald,
all right,
too,
let's
so
just...
it makes sense.
Oh, that is very rude. Overrated. All right, now, I'm doing this off the top of my head. What's another thing that's overrated? Yeah, fuck it. Soccer.
Yeah.
Absolute piss weak sport.
Good to play.
Fuck me dead.
Good to play.
If there was one sport that could come back right now, you know, obviously sports are dead at the moment. AFL, NRL, NFL, fucking
unless
NBA.
it's the Belarusian Premier League, I don't think it's on at the moment.
Unless it's the Philippine under-13 team playing soccer, I don't care about that sport.
Yeah,
and the only reason I care about the Philippine under-13s is because I'm browsing through potential slaves. So
child slaves.
I'm the fuck. God damn it! What's his name? The guy that just died. Fuck, what's his name? Oh my god! It's Jeffrey Epstein. I'm the Jeffrey Epstein, the Australian Epstein.
Epstein, who was killed by the royal family.
Correct. Soccer, shit sport. The only sport that actually might come back is UFC, which obviously gets me a little bit horny because, you know, I want to see the boys punch on, have a bit of blood, and I don't mind seeing a couple boys in boxes.
I will say this, though. Soccer is good to play, especially if it's a staff versus students match, and you can just blast the living bejeebus out of the ball like kids.
I wasn't lying before when I said that the only sport I've ever actually played was soccer. I believe I was like 12 years old. My mum went out and bought me all the fucking shin pads and shit, all new boots, new fucking uniform and everything. And I got sick of it after 2 games because I was put in defence and I'm a fucking ball hog that needs to score goals. So
yeah,
I basically said, Mum, if these cunts don't put me up forward, I'm fucking jogging on. I'm not playing here anymore.
I'm retiring. And you
Although
kept to that promise, Johnson?
That's correct. We did play a pretty cool style of soccer in high school, actually. When we had year 9 and 10s, it basically was like, okay, start in the middle with the ball, but there's no offside rule. And it was like basically a rough, no onside ball version of soccer.
We used to play something similar, which was called Deck the Cunt with a Ball at Brower, which is just basically the only
British
form of assault that wasn't
much
allowed was sexual assault. And Gav would probably try and sneak in and get a bit of that as well.
You got to get a finger in, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like rugby, you know.
Popawati style. You know, you got to get a finger in.
Pop one in. Overrated, a third one. I'm a bit tied up here. Let's go with Tinder.
Yes.
And this is technically a what's the word? A vetoing on behalf of other single friends. Just because I copped a message the other day saying, "Hey Johnson, you used to have bloody Tinder Plus or Premium or whatever it was back in the day," and I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't had that for fucking like 2 years, but sure." And they're like, "What was it like?" And I'm like, "Well, when you got a fucking mug like me, it doesn't matter how much you pay, does it? Unless it goes straight to a prostitute." So, to answer the question, no, Tinder is overrated. The only time I ever, you know, fornicated off it was with a lady who I brought out to my mum's house, and that was a mistake. And then I had to block her off Facebook, so that's good times.
Was that the same bird that also matched me and was... I thought was a bit weird.
Yes. So...
she was from a place that begins with ST.
Tinder is overrated. Yes. Tinder is overrated.
It's ironic you bring this up, considering me and Phallus met on Tinder. And I'm on the podcast right now.
Well, yeah, but she's not here to hear this, so I can.
She's probably listening at the door, but I still haven't dogged it yet. So. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. But dating sites in general, probably you could say is pretty. It's probably not necessarily underrated, but it's not overrated. I would say. A lot of people meet each other on dating sites. It's just quite funny that. In terms of like, because let's be real, right? These people that are asking me, you know, Johnson, what was fucking Tinder Premium like? They're only using it because they want to get a root. So
yeah,
You know, Tinder these days is much different to when we first had it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd fucking hate to be on Tinder right now.
The glory days.
Unless you're like a Chris Hemsworth lookalike motherfucker, like you are not going to get matches as a male. I'm sorry.
Unless you're Brad Kennedy either.
Yeah, because you can.
You've either got to lower the bar to the point where you're not even jumping onto the mat in terms of like a high jump analogy, or you've just got to be, 10'10" like Chris Hemsworth and bench press an entire cow.
Basically Thor 2.0, yeah. But yeah, I'd say Tinder's probably the third overrated. Underrated things in society. This could be a good one actually. Because of the actually, I should have went overrated reality TV shows, but I'll probably get stabbed by my partner if I said that.
Probably die within.
What I'm going to go with is an underrated TV show that is a reality show that could make its way back and should make its way back, and that's Big Brother.
Oh, it is making its way back.
Now, the reason why it's an underrated thing, I'm not even going to pretend like I've watched the last 17 of the cunts, but the original ones with fucking Trevor and Hot Dogs and fucking Fitzy. What a fucking show that was.
Blair McDonough.
I'll even say fucking the chick that did the fucking bum dance or whatever her name is.
Sarah Marie.
At least she had a bit of go to her. These days it's just a bunch of fucking wanks, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's just flogs.
So pretty much you'd get a gig, wouldn't you then?
Yeah, probably. But, I mean, I'm not all on it for the gram, dog. Like, these people are on it for the gram.
Old school Big Brother is definitely something underrated, for sure.
Yeah. Christian.
Another underrated thing in society. You'd probably have to go with mini golf courses, I'd say.
Yeah. Hall's Gap.
I don't know why I said that, but I was just thinking of Hall's Gap, the fucking hardest mini golf course on the planet.
In the world.
Like, pretty much, if you don't, it's pretty much seppuku at the end of it if you want to kill yourself, pretty much, because it puts you through that fucking mental anguish.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the old one that was up the main street, that was even worse. Well, it used to be around the corner from the main street.
In Warrnambool?
No, Hall's Gap.
Oh, yes.
There used to be one near the information centre there, and that used to be like an absolute see you next Tuesday. Well,
fucking while I'm there, underrated part of society, Hall's Gap. What an absolute belter of a place. And I don't mean your typical cliche fucking reason to go there is to detox from technology for 3 days because then you think you'll be a yoga lord. But more so the fact that you can actually just get amongst nature and get naked. And fucking, chase wombats and shit. It's pretty good.
Get naked and, flash your breasts to the other side of the
wombats.
mountain.
Wrong animal, you silly cunt. Wallabies. That's what I meant.
There's echidnas.
And try and ride the cunts. Not echidnas. That'd hurt a little bit.
Clock tries to catch the echidnas and get them off the road.
All right.
Anything to get his kid off.
While I'm here, I'm just gonna. We're gonna do. I like the idea, like I said to you like a few days ago, of me just going, and then just changing the fucking channel, like flicking through channels, cunt. I do what I want. And if my fans hate it, once again, I'll fucking stone cold stunner you through a fucking table. So next is relationship dynamics. Now, this is you that fucking picked this subject. Now, tell me why you picked this.
I picked this because you sent me a video the other night of you demanding to Wilsh that she cooked you dinner. And I'm wondering, what can you get away with?
You just cut that out again.
What I was saying, Johnson, was that in relationship dynamics, there's usually someone that cooks, there's usually someone that cleans, there's usually someone that's in charge of money. I'm assuming, safely assuming here, because Jenny has been responsible for those three things for the first part of your life, and now Wilsh is responsible for those three things for the next part of your life.
Well, yes, I am like a baby, and for those that don't know, Jenny is the name of my mother, and she's a saint.
Yes.
What did you want to know? What did you want to know about relationship dynamics, Dog?
But what do you think the limit is? Like, do you reckon you could get away with not cooking once in a week?
Well, it's funny you asked that because the last 2 weeks, basically, I've offered to cook because my partner is currently working 40 hours a week or whatever at the moment, being a in the position that she's in, and I'm only
high-ranking
probably
role.
doing 15, 20 hours at the moment. But I am fortunate enough to be able to do that. That's awesome. But there's been a couple of nights that she's come through and I've offered to cook. I said I'll cook all day, all week, but there's absolutely zero trust in my cooking ability. And I don't blame her, but it'll be things like sausages, basically simple things like
bangers
pork
and
sausages
mash,
or beef sausages and potatoes and
corn beef.
Corn and peas and shit like that. But she'll just go start fucking cooking it herself because
does she do what Phallus does, whereby I will start cooking and be doing a pretty handy job because I'm not useless in the kitchen,
right?
Like the father that would cook toast and fucking bananas,
and then Phallus comes in and takes over,
and then she'll come in and take over one aspect of the kitchen, and then she'll take over another aspect, and then she'll take over. Like if I'm cooking breakfast and I'm cooking bacon and toast. She'll take over the bacon first, then she'll take over the toast, then she'll take over the tomatoes, and then I'll just be like, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to go sit on the
Well, you know what? I'm just going to fucking sit here. I'm going to sit here in front of the oven and watch the fucking hash browns. This is what I'm going to do.
I'm just going to sit there.
Yes, that does happen to me.
Or she demotes me to garbage boy, where I just have to put everything in the bin. I'm like,
I would almost say, and this is a compliment on Stephanie's behalf, I would say that every single thing... every single dynamic of a relationship, if there's something that I'm better at, she's not much worse at it. If there's something she's better at, I can potentially be much worse at it.
Yes. So I like money stuff I handle to Phallus because that's her industry that she works in. I feel as though, when we do have kids, that dynamic will switch and I'll be sort of handling.
Hold on. Is this breaking news? Hold on.
No,
ding,
no,
ding,
no,
ding.
no, no, no.
Ding, ding, ding. Did you just say when? Ding, ding, ding. Paddy, ding, ding.
It's got to be an option, doesn't it? It's got to be on the table, Johnson.
Well, of course, yeah.
We've been together for 6 years. If it's not on the table, then...
You're not getting any younger there, are you, Christopher?
No, well, I'm not getting any my hair's not getting any less grey now, is it?
No, and I'm not losing any more, so it is what it is.
Oh, jeez, that's a touchy
if
subject.
me and you combined our hairs together, you'd probably be looking at a grey hurricane, basically.
You'd be looking at my grandfather, a 75-year-old man with a sort of slightly receding crew cut and a mustache. Well, because I'm currently growing a mustache for isolation.
Oh, Jesus, I've seen it. It's fucking looks like a 4-year-old boy's. It's an absolute fucking disgrace.
Yeah, but and say that. I'd imagine because of my job's kids and teaching and whatever, that's what I'd handle. So I'm kind of just biding my time.
Is there anything that you think that, because you've obviously been together for, what is it, 6 years now?
6 years.
6 years. In that time, do you think that you have experienced basically every single aspect of a relationship in that 6 years, or do you still get surprised by things occasionally?
Occasionally. I mean,
has it dropped, like the amount?
Yeah, it has. But at the same time, though, we spent nearly 3 years as long distance. So there's obviously going to still be things that I'm going to have to learn about Phallus, and she's going to have to learn about me.
Yes, but you have lived together now for quite some time.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yes.
The first 3 years was long
in
distance.
That time,
3 years. Yeah, it's less frequent.
Yes, but I'm talking like, do you think? Have you done much travelling together or anything like that?
Yeah, we did. Well, we did New Zealand before the shit hit the fan, so to speak.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that wasn't.
Did you? Was there anything that happened on that trip that was relationship dynamic-wise?
Oh, a couple of things, but you know.
It is what it is.
I'm not allowed to mention one of them.
You're like, I'm not going to say what one of them is. I'm going to get a fucking spanking.
I'd get an absolute clipping if I mentioned that story, but it is a hilarious one.
And obviously it's your fucking fault, I'd say, probably.
No.
99% chance, yeah?
No, surprisingly.
Speaking of New Zealand, how was it?
But yeah, it's a different dynamic. And I know that Phallus sort of gets stressed about it, but she wasn't sort of as stressed, I imagine. Because she'd done it before, whereas I was proper cacking myself because I've never been overseas and thought I was going to end up on an episode of Border Security or something.
Oh, you look like the fucking
I
kind of
look
cunt that
like
would
the
be on
kind of
border
guy
security too.
that would take in like 35 cartons of Mega Ring back from New Zealand, or try and smuggle a Kiwi. Try and smuggle a Kiwi bird back.
The Kiwi bird?
Yeah.
Yes. So is there anything else about relationship dynamics, or are we just going to go ding, ding, ding?
I reckon ding, ding. It's
Ding,
time.
ding, ding.
It's time.
All right. Let's change it to education. So you just mentioned, the only reason is because you just mentioned it before. I've had someone else on that actually's done primary school education.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of a different... what year do you teach again?
I'm a CRT dog.
Right. So it can be... during your experience, what has the main ages been?
Prep to 6, mainly.
Yep.
I have done some secondary. Did not like that.
So can you do can you do secondary?
I can do up to year 10.
Right. How do you feel about education right now during the coronavirus? Should teachers be out there or not?
Oh, it's a tough one because you've got kids that are prepped to 2 that have no understanding or very little understanding of the internet. I taught ICT for pretty much most of the first 4 weeks of term, and it was prep 1s and 2s, and just like even getting them to download a picture onto a slideshow is beyond their capabilities.
Yeah.
So it's how they're going to access it and how they're going to be able to be taught.
I think it's obviously not a fucking straightforward answer to the question, but how do you feel about people, for example, teachers that are full-time that refuse to go to work? Do you think they have a right to do so?
I think it does depend on your health situation. Like, if you are someone that has respiratory issues and coronavirus, if you catch coronavirus, then you are in a lot of trouble. So I understand that. And I understand that obviously kids are quite a big risk to be around with coronavirus because they don't show the symptoms as much as an adult would. So there's obviously a big risk there. But at the same time, if you're someone that's perfectly fit and healthy and the only reason that you don't want to go into school is because you will get coronavirus, but you're perfectly fit and healthy, you probably should be able to go in there. Like, especially if you're saving someone else who's nearing retirement and has respiratory issues from having to go into a school.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. What about, for example, if obviously I think it extends to, for example, if that, say, 25-year-old male or female is healthy and fit, but their partner has respiratory issues. Yeah,
then obviously they've got a valued reason why they shouldn't be going to school, I'd imagine.
Do you learn much about the education system in Australia comparatively to other countries?
Yes. So
and where do we stack up?
Well, we are quite far behind, so to speak. But on saying that, like, a lot of these tests that kids are taking are standardised tests, which can be prepared for as such. And you look at some of those countries, such as India, such as South Korea, they're going to be preparing these kids for that test.
Right, yes.
So they can bump up any results and make it look like their education system's fantastic, when realistically their kids have just studied for that test.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I know for a fact that my cousin, one of the colleges that he used to go to in Melbourne district somewhere, I know for a fact that, and this is reported from him and all of his friends, I can't remember if it was year 10 or 11, but around that VCE kind of cutoff, they used to basically pressure all the people that were living in the area that were, your shit kickers, like, people that are going to get shitty average scores like what I did kind of thing. Yeah, they basically said, jog on, kick them out and bring all the Asians in. And that's not being racist. That is just how the fuck it was.
Yeah, well, it depends on what the school wants to prioritise. Like, they'll bring in Asians and they'll bring in Indian kids that, they know will prioritise their education over, Jimmy Bogan, who's bloody going to drink 65 cans on the weekend, go out to
But
bloody
65
revs.
is a fucking achievement in itself.
Go out to revs, shelve a couple of pingers and then try and front up for school on Monday morning. Like,
It sounds like a casual Tuesday, doesn't it?
yeah, but I suppose that's the thing, and that's part of education, is just the whole funding situation, especially in government schools. It's just frustrating, I suppose. And
so,
NAPLAN is another example of that.
What are the pros and cons in the education field or where you work? Like, what are the things that are good about it, and what are the things that need improvement?
I think the whole idea of standardised testing as a means of funding is ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, NAPLAN, it's just one test on one given day that you give to a kid, and then you're determining if they're growing or not, which might completely and utterly go against the tests that you run with that kid throughout the year. But one day, Mum decided to yell at little Jimmy while he was eating his breakfast because he was eating it too slowly, and that was the day of NAPLAN, and little Jimmy, his test sucked.
Right.
So and so it doesn't really account for that, and because it's...
Or what about, what if fucking Jimmy, that day happened to have, that test was on a Monday and little Jimmy went into, the George Pell Cathedral on a Sunday and then he just, what happens to
There's a lot of shit that can happen, I suppose, and the government's not sort of paying attention to.
Wait, George Pell's innocent. Apologies.
yes, he is.
Apologies.
And sort of the other thing, I think a lot of the government does sort of jump on schools that they see have test results that are going up. So at the school I worked at full time, I won't mention it because, privacy.
Yep.
Privacy, Wilsh. Privacy.
Yep.
Yeah, so that school, the government sent out these, experts, and they jumped on the school because the test results, our NAPLAN results were going up. The year that we had these experts in, our test results flatlined.
Right. So is there some kind of, how we mentioned before about the whole, footy club kind of deal with the cocksuckers or whatever the fuck they're called? Is there a similar thing in teaching in education field?
Yeah, well,
I suppose it's the same as any workplace, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
People are going to get along.
Who you know, not what you know. Like, we had a couple of teachers there that got a job basically because they were friends with the principal, and in Warrnambool, you can if you have
entirely based around who you know. And
if you have one or two bad rounds in Warrnambool, you might as well just pack up and move somewhere else. I had a couple of bad rounds in Warrnambool, and one school literally interviewed me and then said, "Oh, we know so and so that you did rounds with, so we're just going to ask them. We're not going to actually ask your referee about how well you teach. We're just going to ask her."
Yeah. That's interesting.
So, yeah, and that's sort of why, one of the reasons why me and Ash sort of moved down here was because, just put simply, you couldn't get enough work. And as a CRT down there, it's kind of, it's first in, best dressed, really. If you're one of the first people to hand them your resume, you get all the work. And then if you're one of the last people to hand them your resume, you get the scraps.
You get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, in a town of 35,000, 40,000, however fucking many cunts there are these days, there's not many primary schools around. Like Melbourne, I'd assume you get more opportunity as well.
Yeah, a lot more. Well, there's a lot more schools, and even out here, there's Cranbourne East, which is the biggest primary school, government primary school in the state, and they're needing to build 3 or 4 schools around that area just so then they can maintain or keep up with the population growth and things like that.
What does CRT stand for? Does it stand for cunt retarded tit?
Yeah, pretty much. Casual relief teacher.
Yes. Oh, yes, casual hand relief teacher. That's beautiful.
Yes, beautiful.
That's the old CHRT. That's a specialisation in uni. You got to do a few extra units to get that one.
Oh, I failed that unit.
Yes.
Too much
hey, guess
teeth.
what, Marns? Guess what? Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, I was going to do the private versus public dog.
Oh, okay. Fuck it.
Last
ding,
one.
Ding, ding.
Last
one. So wait, you want to talk about the private education sector compared to public?
I did work in private last year for a
Ooh, la-di-da, you fucking toff wank.
I suppose, yeah. And, like, people always ask you, well, which one's better? And I'm like, well, it depends on what your kid wants. Like, at the end of the day, if your kid is academic and smart, like, well, yeah, like someone that's academic and smart, like, you know, an Einstein, you're going to send them to a private school, aren't you? Because you want the best for them, or you want them to be in an environment where academics is placed highly.
So, okay, this brings up a good question. If you have a child with Ashley, like you just mentioned before, and look, I'm just going to say it simply. Some kids just aren't academically smart. Look at me. And, right, so if your child, are you going to send them to public or private?
Well, it would. I suppose it depends on the child. Like, I know, I'm like, even comparing me to my two brothers, like, it's completely different. Like, me, I'm more sort of literate. Lachlan's more sort of logical. Braden's more hands-on. So, if I was going to send us three to different schools, I'd probably send me to a school that's more sort of literacy-based. Lachlan to a school that's more numbers-based, and Braden to sort of, you know, a tech school. Like
a tradie tech school.
Yeah, like what Brower used to be sort of back in the day. Sort of
it's
thing.
Interesting, though. That's interesting because, I mean, you can look at it from two different perspectives. That perspective is you're sending them to a school that builds around their strength. However, the flip side to it is if you used you and your brothers as an example, for example, you switched them around. The other flip side to it is if you send you to a tradie, Lachlan to a literacy, and Braden to a numbers, then you're going to round out your education as well. But also, the other flip side to it is, are they really going to give a fuck?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is just does the kid really give a rat's toss bag about whether their education or not? And do you think that
do you think a child should get a right in where they be educated?
I think
in terms of let's compare high school to primary school.
Primary, it's not so much because, I mean, you do have some learning.
Yep.
But it's not at a level whereby you know what you're good at and what you're not. Like, there's not many preps that are going to walk into a prep classroom and know that they're really good with words or really good with numbers.
Yeah.
So it's sort of hard for them to sort of get a choice of where they should go. And it's, I suppose, as parents, you shouldn't really be pushing them to so-and-so school because you think that would, you know, match up with them, because it might not. They might get to school and realise that they hate the joint and think it's, you know, not for them. But as you get older, you do realise what you are good at and what you're not good at. And I suppose some kids will...
What about if you get older and you realise you're just not good at anything?
Then it's sort of, you've just got to sort of go to a school that sort of does it.
No, I was referring to myself there, Marns. God damn it.
Got to go to a school like Warrnambool College that teaches you life lessons, like how to
mate,
fight.
I'm not bad at fucking Need for Speed Underground on the PS2, so, you know, it is what it is.
You went to Warrnambool College too, so they taught you how to fight and how to smoke durries out the back of the school and...
Correct. But also, I was never in I've only ever been in one fight, Marns, and that was at the Cali against 8 people when I was drunk. All right? That's one time I've ever been into a fight.
I've only ever been in one fight, and it was my comeback game to football.
What, that fucking one where you and me played together at Pound Hill where you got the cut in the headlock?
No, that was my second game back. My first one was against Naranda, and I had like 2 goals kicked on me in the first 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, geez, this is going to be a long day.
Yep.
And then I dominated.
Were they a good side?
Handy. And then I played against Almsford, and there was this prick that played like once at North, and he was fucking just getting stuck into me, so I decided to just get him in there, try and whack him and give him a couple of jumper punches. And everyone was like, what the fuck? Since when does Marns fight? And Phallus was there. I think that was one of the first games she's ever seen me play football, and thought I was an absolute
so she thinks that every single fucking...
thinks that I just get in the dust-ons all the time. Absolute
so that's basically when we went out to watch Softy play at Pam back in the day. The day that we watched him kick a fucking absolute belter from the boundary on his left. Thank you very much. But then miss one from fucking 10 metres out right in front, which was just literally like 2 minutes later. But we just remember, it was like one of the first or second games I've ever seen of him, and he was just trying to punch everyone.
Dust it all. Something
He was basically the small version of the NHL's the cunts that go around and just bash people in ice hockey.
Enforcer,
that's the one. Yes, he was the baby enforcer of the
just a
Bulldogs.
Small enforcer, like Mead.
Correct. Yes.
Fox Terrier.
Now, ding, ding, ding.
Oh, here we go.
Do you want to do? Nah, fuck it. You don't get a choice. Fuck ya. This is my show. Stone cold. Philosophical questions. We'll just jump straight into some serious while we're doing some serious. All right, I'm going to ask you a set of 5 questions. You've probably heard the 5 questions before, I assume.
Oh, I assume.
But anyway, question 1. What's the meaning of life?
Oh, I think I've sort of thought about this, considering you ask this question all the time.
Right.
I thought
It
I
is
better
the same
prepare
5
something.
questions. And
just
you have heard the other podcasts, right?
Yeah, or most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it is. Well, it's obviously about enjoying yourself and not taking yourself too seriously, and enjoying your life and sort of being able to do something that you enjoy. And I do enjoy teaching as much as there's the other crap that comes with it. You do enjoy it at the end of the day when a kid sort of can pick something up and grow with it. And I think sort of growth is another sort of important part of life. You have to be able to grow.
Do you think that it's just interesting you asked that the answer to that question related to jobs? How related does it have to be to your job?
Not so much, but you do need to have some sort of enjoyment out of it. And some sort of opportunity. The only reason I ask
that is because I actually do think that it is tied to your job because you fucking spend 40 hours a week there.
Yeah, and you've got to have an opportunity to sort of grow in your job and be able to sort of better yourself. And I suppose once you get old, your job is then to not better yourself, but is to better your family. I guess.
Yes.
Sort of that sort of way. Like I look at my great pop who passed away last year, was 99. For the last sort of 20, 30 years of his life, he was still trying to better himself. Like he got an iPad and learnt how to use an iPad at like 90 years old. But he was also trying to make sure that as a family we were sort of growing and making sure that all ourselves were getting better at what we were doing. So he'd make sure that, he'd have a discussion with me and talk to me about, how was uni going, how was school going, making sure that I was sort of, making sure that betterment was my focus, I guess.
Yep. And do you think the meaning of life is individual or for everyone the same?
I think everyone sort of will have a different meaning of life, but generally you have those sort of topics that sort of cover everything, don't you? Sort of happiness, growth, that sort of thing. So you sort of will have similar answers, but it'll be a different meaning for every person.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, what happens to us after death?
You die.
And?
I would like to think it's sort of, you come back in some sort of Aboriginal sort of spirit realm to guide everyone. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
Or reincarnation would be cool. Sort of the whole sort of Hindu reincarnation where you know where you're going to go next sort of thing. That'd be kind of cool. But I mean,
I've just been stuck on this idea of the life review. I love the idea of a life review. So, for example, if I were to die in 10 years and you were to die in fucking 40 years, whatever it is, or whatever stage that happens, and one has to wait for the other. But obviously, once you're dead, does time really exist, I guess. But also, it'd be pretty cool for one of us to die and then the other one just to die and then be able to sit on a couch and fucking watch a life review of our lives and just sit back and
enjoy the memories.
Sink tins. And I always like the whole idea of a universal remote. I think it would be fucking cool as shit to just be able to see every single thing completely, because obviously you're dead. Who cares about being vulnerable, right? People hate to be vulnerable, but clearly the first thing I'm going is, hey, Marns, come sit down on the couch. I've just reviewed the last 12 hours of your sex life. In detail, with a lot of fucking pausing, zooming in, and not much fast forwarding because, it doesn't go for long. But, it is what
definitely doesn't need fast forwarding.
Are humans obligated to better themselves, and will that make them happier?
I think, yeah, you've got to be, in terms of, you've got to be bettering yourself. And if you're not bettering yourself, then you've got to be bettering someone else, I guess.
Yep.
It's kind of, you can't be stuck in neutral for 20, 30 years of your life, because that would just suck.
Yeah. So yes is the answer? Yes?
Yes. Because otherwise you just, it feels like a Dyson. It would just suck.
So basically, I don't mind the idea of nihilism, but I don't really know it that well to be able to understand it. I know Google basically says it's the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless. So it sounds very bleak if you put it that way. Philosophical, it just says here, the belief that nothing in the world has a real existence. So it is quite bleak, but it is also probably can apply to certain things. But I tend to agree with that question.
It's kind of like the Truman Show.
Why do you have to refer to the Truman Show? How dare you?
It's just has no real meaning.
How does life... apologies. Does life require a purpose and a goal? Why or why not?
I think it does require a purpose or a goal, but your goal will always change. And sometimes, I suppose, as a person, you are probably the last person that realises that a goal has been achieved. Because that's just the way we're wired, I guess. The way we're wired is that, everything that you do is not as good as what it should be. I suppose you always strive for perfection, but perfection never sort of comes to you.
Yeah. Okay. Does good and evil come from within? Why or why not? So is good and evil... I like to rephrase this quote. You don't really need to rephrase it, but is good and evil taught, or are you born with it?
I think you are predisposed, I suppose, to what your DNA and your genetics would suggest that is going to happen. So there is an element of, yes, it's you're born with it, but I think what your life events will then probably determine whether you turn out good or evil. Like if things happen in your life that are bad or that you wouldn't expect to happen, like your mum gets hit by your dad regularly, then that's probably going to steer you down a path of evil. Whereas if you're good and good things happen in your life, chances are you're going to stay good. There's not really that opportunity, I suppose, to jump. But there's obviously exceptions to the rule as well.
Yep. Okay, I think you've answered them pretty well. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh!
Favourite drinking stories and memories? All right, I'm not going to touch any of my travelling stuff, obviously, because we don't have anything that's related to there. Obviously, you probably would have known some of that stuff anyway, but with the people that I do plan on getting on here, some of them are from my trips, so it's probably better to get them to tell the stories. But wait, now, how long have we known each other, Christopher? Since we were
16?
I would say no. It'll be
15.
younger than that. I would say 15 years old.
Yeah.
So you're talking to high school era. Obviously, we went to different high schools, but there's been
there's a
the
lot of people.
most time we would have
that
spent
I
around
know.
each other for sure would have been, glorious Shakes era. When it was me, Shakes, Tyndall at the Shakes abode. That was for sure the most time we would have spent together, which would have been, what's that? My uni years, so 2010-ish to 12.
Yeah, my uni years as well. So what, 2012-ish?
10 to 12, 13, I'd say.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that for sure, the 12, 13 section, is because the Mayans predicted the end of the world in 2012.
The infamous
and we
end of
took
the world party. That we had.
We had an end of the world party.
And Mead was stuck in Perth like a flog, watching Marley Williams get arrested out the front of an Albany nightclub.
All right, so obviously we do, going to different high schools. We would have had different friends, group friends.
Yeah, but there's some people that would have sort of
There's definitely some cross play there, But yeah, let's fucking just sit back and talk absolute shit about drinking stories. You got any for me?
Well, there is the infamous, obviously, grand final eve story that we need to talk about.
Ooh, grand final eve.
The infamous. Remember the one where we one of our.
Can you give me a AFL grand final? Who was in that year? It might help me.
Oh, the grand final. Well, there's two grand final eve stories. One is the grand final eve story from the under-16s grand final, which I'm not sure how much of that I could air.
Yep.
Because there's a couple of things that happened in that story that probably shouldn't be aired.
Who played grand final that year?
Well, we were in the grand final, Wongoon versus Grasmere. And we decided that we'd had the grand final won. So we invited Johnson and a few of the boys around to one of our former mates, who's now my brother's housemate.
Yep.
Which is a bit weird. And so we just had a few ales. And then one of our mutual friends decided to invite a girl around.
Right. Okay, I know what story we're at. Sorry.
And the girl decided to be a bit distracting to the cause of winning the grand final.
Of course. I mean, you're the one female in,
8 blokes.
5 or 6 blokes, one female around. You're 15 years old. What do you fucking think's going to happen?
And the only thing that me and Johnson have in common with this story is we both got sent to the bedroom.
Correct.
And missed out on what happened.
And we missed out on, let's just say, finally, we won't name the female here, but let's just say that the female came over. We had a few drinks. It got to the stage where a few of us had to leave the room. Unfortunately, me and Marns were two of those people, and I say unfortunately because there was a little bit of a
little bit of horseplay.
A little bit of horseplay, if you can get your heads
with
around
a glow stick, yeah.
With a glow stick, yeah. And we unfortunately missed out on that one.
And then that glow stick was then proceeded to be played with by most of the players the next day, as we proceeded to get bowled out for 130, and then the opposition made 125 and 20 overs, and won the grand final.
What you're saying is that female is your voodoo doll. And you lost the fucking Colts grand final because of that.
She is the Jordan De Goey of this story. Like Jordan De Goey in the 2018 grand final when he didn't go and spoil the mark that Jeremy McGovern took. She is the De Goey of that story.
Fucking hell. That's a good one. I like that one too because that abode, that house that we were at, actually one of your friends who's... we're still tied in together, cross-play was, decided to fucking mooch a girl that I was chasing a few times there. I put all the hard yards in.
It literally felt like every time we went to that house, it was a replaying story. It was like Home and Away. It was literally like
basically
Home and Away.
Home and Away. It happened 2 or 3 times in a row where I'm putting, there's nothing funnier to me. There's nothing funnier to me than a 15-year-old horny man. Like thinking back of myself or others, like the things that you would do to
get women,
women with the old 1 cent text, or you send us fucking up. Speaking of, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it because I probably owe Marns about $357 worth of 1 cent text,
and your firstborn son, but that's
that is technically yes, that is, and Stephanie does know that story. I think I've told her that story about how my first son's name must be Christopher.
Because you owe me. That actually reminds me, though, when you talked about 15-year-olds and how desperate they are, we once walked from that said friend's house, so we'll call him the Spatchcock. The Spatchcock, his house is near a well-known landmark of Warrnambool, so it's a fair way out of town, so to speak.
Yes.
You've been there, Johnson, so it's a fair way out of town.
Yes.
We walked from there all the way, I think it was just past the Cudgee School. So that was about a 6-kilometre walk to go get the said girl, and this was the said girl who was involved in the Jordan De Goey of the previous story. And we picked up her and her friends, walked them back to where we camped. So that was the usual camping spot where you went for Spatchcock's 16th birthday party. And you might get to that story in a moment. But anyway.
Yep. I'll definitely tell this story.
That one. And then we walked all the way. They walked all the way back. And that girl lived on the highway near Cudgee. And not like in Cudgee, like back towards Allensford, back near the turn-off for the Great Ocean Road.
Fuck, that is a decent fucking job.
That is
one.
I reckon nearing 20k.
Jesus Christ. I've done some pretty drunk fucking walks in my time, including one that, don't let me forget to tell this one, the old At World's End one, Marns, that we did.
Oh, no.
Delicious one. Yeah, speaking of that 16th birthday party, so I would have been 15 at the time. I would say there probably would have been 20 of us there. It was mostly pretty much all of you guys from your school.
Except for yours truly, actually. What were you... I was in the up at Red Hill that weekend. So I wasn't there, and all you pricks kept ringing me.
Wait. Oh my God, I'm getting two stories confused. I'm getting the story about the time you drank a fucking full cask of goon mixed up with this story.
Yeah, those are separate stories.
Right, so, fucking hell. See, that's story brain for the fucking 7th podcast in a row. So yeah, this was a loose fucking night that Marns wasn't there for, unfortunately. FOMO, eat dicks. And let's just say me and a friend of mine were hitting on a couple of young ladies there that night. We were probably only we would have been 15 years old. I think he was 16 at the time. And these two ladies were talking to me and a friend of mine from my high school. And he's done the old, oi Stevie, come over here, and then give me the chat and being like, hey, which one are you chasing? I said to him, being a 15-year-old, I don't really care.
Whatever's
but
I
did happen to say, one of those ladies over there actually mentioned a metal band, and I just started to get listening to metal at the time, when I was 15, 14. So I'm like, there's common ground there, so probably her. And then my other friends obviously gone, that's fine, I'll go to the other one. And the best part about the story is the one that yours truly happened to end up having a bit of a kiss with. She was actually quite attractive, I would say. Whereas the other one, that me mate, he could have had the choice if he really wanted to. What did you say before about a kicked in biscuit tin
or half chewed minty or
so basically as a male, it's also known as taking the hand grenade.
Yes.
However, he's actually rolled on the hand grenade himself without me having to force anything. And the funny thing about that fucking friend is when we're talking like from 20 to 23 or 4 or whatever, when we were out at the pubs and the clubs in Warrnambool, the amount of times that cunt would go up to a girl and just like have absolutely nothing but pure confidence and try and wingman me, but it would always be a girl that I'm just not interested in at all. He would do it like oh God, so annoying.
It was classic. He did it to nearly everyone.
I swear part of it was because, he's just, I don't know.
He's got that BDE.
He's got that big dick energy, boy.
Yeah, he does. Just
another great drinking time was the At World's End. For anyone that has seen the movies, it's a trilogy, the Cornetto trilogy, the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz and At World's End with the two English lads. So At World's End, the premise of the story is they pretty much, people get together in their 40s or whatnot and they relive a night that they had where they go around to a heap of different pubs and drink a pint at each pub. So we decided to do that in Warrnambool. So we picked, 12 pubs or something?
12 pubs, but then we had to shorten it because of fucking the shit Warrnambool weather, which is just, you grow to expect.
Yeah, so Warrnambool weather fucked us, but also the Rafferty's being halfway out the fucking road.
Yeah, and the horse being halfway the other way.
Me and Marns would have been keen for the jog, so we could do a lap of Warrnambool and, be like...
Reminisce about times.
Reminisce about the good times.
Visit a certain Dark Lord.
Yes, but we decided to just shorten it up. I think we ended up having maybe 2 pints at the first pub or something, and maybe 2 pints the second pub. But I do remember just getting to the end of that and, obviously fucking burning through about $300 because I was getting pints of bourbon because I don't drink beer. So that fucking killed me. I was probably on my Red Rooster wage at the time. Like, Jesus Christ.
Red Rooster.
And yeah, I just remember getting to the end of it and having 12 or 13 pints of bourbon and being off my fucking nana. I do recall a few people making it to the last pub and getting in somehow miraculously, and then ditching within fucking 10, 15 minutes. I'd say probably 3 or 4 of them that ended up doing that just because they were fucking fuck-eyed.
And that pub was, now is at World's End because it's no longer there. It's not really a pub. It's a night spot. Do
you have any others? Any other classics, Marns? I'll let you tell one if you got one more, and then I'll go ding 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 because I've got about 10, 15 minutes. And I know how I can end it. I know how I can end this bad boy.
Trying to think of a classic. What is a? Well, this one probably is a classic because it does show.
If it's got any details about me, yours truly, you can go into depth. I don't give a fuck.
This one is a walking based one. So talking about walking while you're pissed. So one night I went out to the Panmure local, otherwise known as the Panmure pub.
Was this? Did this happen to be Mexican night?
No, but
this is a different story. Apologies.
No, you can touch on Mexican night. So anyway, I was at the pub with the Spatchcock and a couple others that I played cricket with, and anyway we sort of, it was getting late in the night. And I sort of decided, look, the pub had shut, so I sort of decided, well, I don't really want to go back to the Spatchcock's house to then have to get home the next morning ready for cricket. So I decided to walk from Panmure pub back to the parental abode, which at that point in time was in Purnham.
Yep.
So that was a 16-kilometre walk, I think. I put it in once in Google Maps. It was 16k.
Fuck, that is a decent drunk walk. Now, obviously,
and also
when you're drunk, it's fucking different, though. It doesn't feel like so bad. But
it feels like you're floating. Also, that is involving walking past the local Indigenous commune, I guess it is, or community. Yes. And there was a couple of cars that went past when I was going through there, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to get jumped. I mean, no offence, but there's, if you see someone out at 4 o'clock in the morning, you probably feel like jumping them.
Oh,
especially if they're just sitting there, walking beside the road. So I decided to jump into the long grass, not realising that there was like a blackberry bush or something beside it, and then I'd get snagged on the blackberry bush and spend about 5 minutes trying to get myself out of the blackberry bush.
Yes.
Anyway, I get home at about 4:30, wake up at 8:30, and then I had to play cricket the next morning, and I'm pretty sure we fielded all 70 overs. And I don't think I moved at all. Like, I just was incapable of movement. I was like, they would have been better having a scarecrow standing at point than me. Because I just could not move.
Before I forget, that first topic we talked about, the overrated under things in society, why did you think of that?
I mentioned it.
What was it? What was your reasoning?
The cricket.
Oh, fuck. See, I'm fucked up. Marns, it's been too long. I've been talking to you for too long. It's been an hour, really. Yeah. All right, let's ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
And let's go to our final topic. Now, we're going to go back to serious again here. Let's talk about sports again, but this time let's talk about mental health in sports. You've got written here concussions as well, so I'm curious, what was your reasoning behind this topic?
I think, me and fellas were talking about this the other day. There's got to be some sort of correlation, we reckon, between concussion and mental health, because a lot of sports players are coming out now with mental health issues, obviously.
Yep.
And a lot of those people are people that have been either predisposed to concussion or have taken head knocks or, like they've suffered some sort of injury to the head, neck area, or potentially might have, fell on their head at some point. Who knows?
I
you can be dropped as a baby.
Obviously, you weren't because that head size of yours. I'd say you fucking broke. Fucking is that the earthquake from fucking 1993 and 91? Sorry, in Japan.
Possibly.
I'd say so.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of equilibrium thing.
Concussions. Yeah, I would think that concussions would have definitely something to do with mental health in sports. Mental health in sports is a tricky one from an outsider's perspective. That, like I said, that hasn't played the sports, but from an outsider's perspective, I would think one of the reasons why mental health is not just running rampant in society at the moment, a dip in mental health and things like that. But in terms of sports, I think I'll use football as an example, a football club. You can add in a number of key factors here, and you tell me whether you think these things whether you agree with me on them or not. The first thing is you've got a bunch of guys that are testosterone filled. That's first. Second thing is, in terms of country football clubs especially, you've got a bunch of guys that, you know what it's like to get around your mates or be around your mates all the time in big groups. Like, it becomes like, like I said, more testosterone filled. It's a pack culture thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that seems to happen a lot, I could be wrong here, but you might agree with me, is that, certain mates might root their mates' misses or something in the club or whatever.
Well, yeah, there's lots of stories about those.
There's of course there's heaps of stories about that, and star players that can get away with everything.
Wankery.
Yeah, you've got that thing, about the star players that are untouchables kind of thing. When they go out into society and they think that they're untouchable until they get into a fucking workplace and then realise, oh, wait, there's actually a boss here that I need to follow.
Yeah.
What else is there that contributes to bad mental health?
Probably social media, definitely. Like,
for sure, yeah.
To be able to have to go out there and have every move you make scrutinised is probably something that would drive you insane. But in saying that, there's other professions where that's common as well, such as teaching or being a doctor or being a nurse or being a celebrity. Like, it's probably not that. It's common, but in saying that, I suppose if you're seeing it every single day on social media, like, you look at someone like a Tex Walker who's probably really hounded by people on social media. Every time he plays a shit game, people refer to the 2017 grand final because he went missing, basically. You
probably onto something there. Another reason why mental health is so bad is because of people's reliance on sport and their fucking pedestaling of sports being this untouchable thing. Like, if someone has a shit game, to me, it's just people in society just take sports way too seriously. I feel like you need to take a step back and just realise, like, it's just sport.
It's a release,
who cares, really?
It's not a be-all and end-all. It is just a release at the end of the day.
Another reason why mental health in sports could be dipping is because generally in the male area, we are, I'd still say, it's obviously changed, but, the whole attitude of men aren't meant to show emotions kind of thing.
Don't talk sort of thing.
Don't talk about it kind of thing.
Well, when someone passed away, Marnie said that was the first time that a lot of the senior footballers even had a conversation with each other about mental health.
Apologies, you're going to have to repeat that, robot Marns. You just come through. No.
So Marnie, she said, when one of their players passed away through suicide, that was the first conversation that the senior footballers had ever had about mental health with each other, which is just staggering. Because a lot of those people...
everyone knows a local story about, unfortunately, people that have killed themselves and stuff like that. The thing that I think maybe society's starting to wake up to is that suicide can attack anyone at any time.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one person to be, out of whack for that one day so bad that they don't want to exist anymore, and they actually follow through with it. Once it's obviously something that's permanent. Once you do it, that's it. You can't come back.
It's not like a Nintendo.
There's no
game.
second choice.
It's not, Crash Bandicoot, where you can just respawn at the last peach or whatever it used to be.
Another thing is, I'd like to think, and look, I'm going to fucking stand on this hill. I could be wrong, but I don't necessarily think I am. Drugs in sports. There's obviously, it runs rampant in country football clubs, it can be anything. It can be as harsh as methamphetamines or anything like that, but it can be any kind of gear, really.
Well, if Ben Cousins can do meth as an AFL footballer, then
yeah, correct.
Jimmy Bloggs
And I think that in AFL, I would be very surprised if a lot of those guys, especially in their off season, don't do party drugs, etc.
Yeah, well, it's
like
well known.
It's pretty fucking well known and obvious that would happen.
And it's well known who does and who doesn't. You just need to get on a
spot
big
on.
footy.
And I do think that makes a significant impact upon their mental health. Is there anything else that I've missed?
I think the one last thing is probably kind of obvious is the lack of probably structure to their lives. Like, outside of training...
Structure to what, sorry?
Their lives. Like, structure...
Oh, yes. Yep.
I suppose structure is very good for your mental health, and they, outside of training and playing, the rest of the week can be anything. And for some of them, it's, studying, going and working. Like, Sean Grigg owns the Spud boxes that are all over Melbourne, so he goes out and does that. Used to go out and do that when he played for Richmond. But a lot of them, especially...
So, for example, if you're a staff AFL player, for example, or any sport, and you don't have, obviously, a need for a job, basically, when you're not training, what are you doing? Like, what do they do with their spare time?
And a lot of the younger guys, they're sitting there, playing FIFA for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I suppose the flip side is to it, people have got to ask themselves, fucking right now is the perfect example. How are you doing in social isolation? Whoever's listening to this, you know what I mean? Like, this is, if you're, I've fucking found myself a couple of times. I've got that much entertainment, in terms of like entertainment, like books, podcasts, TV shows, movies, video games, etc., to play or to watch or whatever, and I still fucking find myself getting bored and fucking pacing in the house sometimes,
Yeah.
And it's the typical jump on your fucking phone and waste half an hour doing absolute nothing when you could be utilizing that time doing something better. It's probably not easy to jump out of that, especially if you're doing it full time.
Yeah.
I do have more respect for people that that haven't had a job in a long time, Like, to me, wake up every day and be hindered by not having any money to be able to do anything, and then confined to your house. I mean, you see the ad, I'm sure you watch the ads all the time on Channel 7 because you're a big House Rules fiend.
Massive.
Massive.
Show. Best show.
All the ads about the mental health side of things. I think the Australian government's, I think society's finally taking it seriously.
I think it's probably a good sign.
Social isolation's the perfect time, I guess. But there is the flip side to it. Like I mentioned before, when I said Rogan said, that it's the best time to go out and exercise. It can also be hard to do because you don't
where's
want
the motivation to do it?
Yeah.
Especially if you're someone like me that plays sport and you're not even sure if that sport's like, I'm not even sure what next season will look like.
Are you the type of person to have a heap of video games and TV shows and stuff and things that you can do, but then end up fucking wasting time on your phone or pacing the house like I do? Like,
or I'll go and annoy Phyllis while she's working, or it's just it's because you just.
I think it comes down to our attention spans though as well, because I quite often have to now, if I put a movie on, like literally get my phone, throw it fucking in the other room, put it on the charger in the other room or something, just leave it away, away from me. Otherwise, I'm going to look at it. And, we get our information in fucking spades these days. So, it seems to be a combination of things. So
it's an information overload, I think, sometimes too. Like, that can probably send someone to probably have mental health issues. It's just because you've got that overload of information, and sometimes for some people's brains that's just going to cause anxiety and all sorts of issues. And
speaking of anxiety, It happens to be one of those things that, you know, when you see someone that has actual proper, like, crippling anxiety. It's fucking terrible to watch. I think the funny thing I mentioned about anxiety, and I'll leave the podcast on this note. I've had a few people that have wanted to come actually on here, or either they've instigated me to come on, or in the terms of anxiety, I have instigated them. And a lot of people's responses are always, it's never really anything along the lines of, I'm afraid what people think of me or anything like that. It's not that. It's either I think I'm too boring to come on the show, I'm not interesting enough, or, which in itself probably comes back to them actually caring about what people think, even though they say they don't, or I'm not a good speaker. You know, I'm not good at public speaking or something. The thing is, it does make a difference. You know, I've only unfortunately been able to do one podcast because of coronavirus in person. I've had the one with James, the one with Corey, the one with Nathan and that. And Nathan was similar to this. We don't have a webcam right now. It's just over
You don't get to see my nude body, I know. It's a shame.
I know. It's disgusting. But yeah, it makes a big fucking difference in person. And the other flip side to it is, after doing night shift for a year and a half, working from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m., like, the one thing that I really wanted to do was, like, bring back being more social. And not just social in settings that I'm comfortable with, but uncomfortable with as well.
Yeah.
I think maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's obviously rampant through society right now. If anyone's listening to this and you do want to come on the podcast, it's really not that fucking hard, you know?
Especially if you've got a face for radio like me and Johnson. Like, it's real easy. Like, you don't even have to show your face.
I do have a face for radio. That is a delicious call.
That doesn't explain Joe Rogan, though, really, because, like, that guy's got a face for radio, but he still videotapes his podcast. Like, I don't understand.
Correct, but he is literally the bald Hulk as well.
He is virtually the living Hulk penis.
See, I feel like the people that, like, obviously, I don't particularly, as long as something's not sensitive information, I don't particularly care if something's on the internet and it's there forever. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. Yeah. But some people do care, I guess. Yeah. And some people do care about what.
I suppose that's why I didn't sort of go full fucking tangent mode on the education system, because then I would never get employment again. Correct.
But the other flip side to it, and I will end on this, because I like using this as an analogy.
Today, Junior.
If you didn't care what people think of you, let's just say we are geared to care what people think about us. And if you don't agree with that, the one example that I can give you that to me is foolproof, if you're currently on social media, which is 99% of us, in any form, doesn't matter, Snapchat,
Facebook, or as I like to call it, middle age book,
Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Boomer book.
Snapchat's obviously less public compared to the other ones.
Yeah. Better
let's just use Facebook and Instagram for an example.
Old man book.
You know, when someone says, "Oh no, I don't really care what people think of me," I think that's a lie, and I think that everyone cares about what someone else thinks of them. It just depends on the scale of whether it's a 10, like hardcore 10, like yes, deep down I really, really, really care, or no, I don't really care. I'm pretty relaxed about it, but you're still at a 1 in my eyes. And this example is what I use. If you're on Facebook right now and you don't care, or Instagram, and you don't care what people think about you, make a post right now and then delete all your friends.
See what happens.
Boom. Now, think about that for a second. If you people go, "Oh, why would I delete all of my friends if no one can see that?" Then you can go back and say, "Well, why are you making the post?" The only reason you post on social media is so other people see it.
It's all for the gram and the likes, baby.
So you do care, baby. You do care.
It's all for the gram.
I post things on Facebook that are hilariously unfunny, but funny to me because I like getting a kick out of it.
And Mead.
Everyone has their own vices.
Mead puts up disgusting middle-aged men posts about how much he loves Pauline Hanson because that's what gets the likes, baby doll. Now,
I do have to actually go back to work at Chris Mahony in about 13 minutes, so I better jump off. Do you have any thoughts you want to share with the world?
The only thought I have is that Codemasters really needs to make Shane War 99, remake it, ready for us so then we can use it during ISO. I mean, it's a bit of a challenge to get it up and going.
What is that?
In 2
what do
months.
They need to remake?
It's a bit of a challenge to get it up and going within probably 2 or 3 months, but still, it needs to be done.
What do they need to remake?
Shane War 99.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Never seen a cricket game like it since then. Jesus Christ. I was literally talking to Matt the other day about how Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 were fucking mint racing games, and the reason why is because they're not realistic. Like, you're just drifting and shit. And now they care so much about realism and stuff. Like, they're going the Forza route. Some classic games just need to be remade.
You need a little level of unrealism. Otherwise, what's the point?
It just does my head in, Christopher. All right, now, since you're a famous Ibiza DJ jockey,
Darren Beatman.
Every single episode, I'm going to end with with me and the guest singing a little song. Now, you've probably got about 800 fucking songs on that set, the DJ CD Marns infamous set. However, do you have one off the top of your head that you'd like to belt out with me?
Take the Pressure Down by John Farnham, clearly.
Apologies, what was that? Robot Marns?
Take the Pressure Down by John Farnham.
I don't know that song, you can't. Pick another one.
Let me think. What About Me by Shannon Knoll?
Oh, that is an absolute belter. Where would you like to go from?
We'll just go from the chorus.
All right, hold on. Let me just bring that bad boy up. It's a shame that I don't know the chorus off the top of my head. I'd have to...
What about me isn't fair?
You ready, babe?
Yes.
What about me isn't fair? I've had enough. Now I want my share. Can't you see? I want to live, but you just take more than you give. What about me? What
about Nosy?
What about
Shannon
God?
Knoll?
Sebastian?
He always finishes second. Just ask his missus.
Do you know who doesn't finish second? This boy. And on that note, CD Marns, I am out. Goodbye.